Hi, this is Jason Dibbler, co-host of Q with a View, heard every Tuesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Time on FTR Radio. Right now, FTR needs your help in making the jump into the 21st century through some long-needed equipment upgrades. This is where you, the great and loyal listeners of Great Conservative Talk Radio, can really lend a hand. Visit GoFundMe.com/helpupgradeFTR right now. Your assistance, no matter how small, will help to ensure that FTR can continue to offer some of the best conservative radio on the interwebs. Your donation of $50 gets you up to 60 seconds of airtime on FTR Radio 4 times. For $100, your ad will run 10 times, or if you don't want to run an ad, you can have 30 minutes of FTR airtime to talk about anything you want. There are other thank yous for other levels of giving as well, but those are some pretty great offers. We hope you'll consider making a small donation to help keep quality conservative talk radio alive and thriving on the internet. Visit GoFundMe.com/helpupgradeFTR today. Thank you.
Hi, this is Mike Grell, creator of John Sable Freelance, and you're listening to Vigilant Liberty Radio.
You're listening to Saturday Night Cigar Lounge with Taylor, right here on Vigilant Liberty Radio.
I am your host, Taylor Millard, and very happy to have a first-time guest, but hopefully someone who will have on again, one of my favorite, he's become one of my favorite comic book authors. He is a writer at large. He is known for writing Archer and Armstrong and Ivar Time Walker at Valiant Comics. He also has done a lot of stuff with Marvel, and his creator owns stuff, Action Philosophers. And he also was the co-author, and I almost forgot this, the co-author of Cowboys and Aliens, Fred Van Lente. Welcome to the show, sir.
Well, thank you for having me, sir. Great intro.
Well, I try to build people up.
Build expectations I can't possibly fulfill. I like it.
So let's talk Valiant. First off,
sure.
You are the right now the author of Archer and Armstrong, and you're also doing Ivar Time Walker. How did you get involved with Valiant? Did they call you? You call them? How'd that work out?
Well, Valiant, was a company that was pretty big in the 90s, as your listeners may or may not know. And then it's a very interesting story. A couple of Valiant fans got the money together and the investors together to buy the company back from bankruptcy that had fallen into at the end of the 90s, the same basic period that Marvel went into bankruptcy at that same period. And then they decided to bring back a lot of the titles. And so I was known for doing with my buddy Greg Pak a book for Marvel called Incredible Hercules that was this buddy book. And they came up to me at New York Comic Con one year, I think it was 2012, and said, hey, do you want to do this book, Archer and Armstrong? And I said, sure. And then I went home and Googled Archer and Armstrong because I'd never heard of it before. And discovered that it was pretty crazy. It was invented by Barry Windsor Smith, essentially, with some help by Bob Layton and Jim Shooter. As part of Valiant's run, they wanted to have a buddy book, so they paired this Hare Krishna martial artist with an immortal drunk, basically. And they were both pursued by this sect that was this cabal, essentially, this conspiracy made up of all the major world religions. And it was totally insane. And the Wikipedia entry made it sound like, and still kind of sounds like, it was written by a schizophrenic. Like, it doesn't make any sense at all. But that was the book, and Warren Simons, the editor-in-chief of the new Valiant, gave me the Barry Windsor Smith stuff and said it had aged like a fine wine. And it was very true, because it's very, it's just totally insane. It's insane in the way the best comics are. And I definitely thought it was something right up my alley. And David Aja of Hawkeye fame redesigned all of the Valiant characters. And they moved Archer away from being a Hare Krishna, which is a religion I know nothing about, to being sort of a sort of a survivalist Christian, born-again Christian assassin. And I was like, I've never been a survivalist, but I was a Christian at one point, so I can make fun of them all day long, no problem. So I
went to a Baptist school, so I kind of make fun of Baptists sometimes. But
right. So I was much more in my wheelhouse. And Armstrong, the sect believes him to be the Antichrist when really he's just this, basically harmless, super strong drunk. But sort of the appealing part of Armstrong for me was that he's been alive for 10,000 years, so he doesn't let anyone get away with myth making, because he's seen all this stuff. Like, you can't just say, "Oh, this happened in the hoary past." But Armstrong was there and is like, "Nah, it didn't happen like that." So that was sort of a source for a lot of fun, of humor, and it was a place to poke fun at conspiracy theories of all stripes. We made fun of all of them. We made fun of sort of Da Vinci Code type religious conspiracy theories. We made fun of historical conspiracies. We made fun of Area 51 and alien conspiracies and mysterious disappearances. Our final arc was called American Wasteland, and it tackled Elvis and Marilyn Monroe and Jim Morrison and Jimi Hendrix and all those and entertainment and Hollywood myths, So we ran the gauntlet of insanity, and I always like making fun of conspiracy theory. I read a great newspaper article in the 90s. I can't remember what it was. Some nameless anonymous State Department official said he didn't believe in conspiracy theory. He believed in stupidity theory, which is that things that seem mysterious and sinister to us on the outside really just seem that way because no one knows what they're doing, and they just they do these bizarre things that you don't entirely understand, and a lot of this stuff just sort of comes out of ineptitude more than anything else. We have a very human desire to believe that there's some design at work in the universe, whether it's divine or human. I just don't think I think it's very hard for us to accept the possibility that maybe there isn't. Maybe we're all just spiraling off through space. So that impulse.
That's kind of the fun of it, is not always knowing.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. And I think if you're open and people who can't laugh at themselves are generally the people who most deserve to be mocked. And that's definitely sort of my attitude about people in power and people who sort of have a inflated view of themselves. Because to me, that's really what conspiracy theories are. It's reverse narcissism. It's the negative side of narcissism. It's like, why are you so important that people are after you? That doesn't really, is the CIA really coming after you, or are you just maybe trying to add some excitement to your otherwise mundane and ordinary life?
I have to be honest. I was not original. You sold me on Archer and Armstrong. I was not originally a fan when I heard about the book.
Right.
And because it was like buddy cop, it's like I'm not. I don't. I have a very, very dry sense of humor, so it takes a while for me to kind of live up to, or get into the humor aspect. And then I happened to read the Area 51 with General Redacted and all that stuff, and I was like, I got to buy the rest of this stuff now.
That's great. Thank you.
So you have convinced me. You have convinced me that humor, that sometimes oddball humor is perfectly fine.
Yeah, it's weird. I never thought of myself as like. I mean, I certainly would have turned my nose up at sort of buddy cop stuff, but I just kind of fell into it.
Yeah, and how difficult is it to balance the seriousness with the humor? Do you find that easy? Do you find that hard?
Not really. I mean, like, I grew up like TCM. I love the cable channel TCM, right? And they just did a retrospect of this guy, Luis Buñuel's movies. He was a famous Spanish director who made a lot of movies in France and Mexico. And my Spanish teacher showed these to us in high school. She was a huge Buñuel nut, and I think if she showed us his entire 20-hour body of work, she wouldn't have to teach us for 2 months, so she could sit in the back with the flask. But they were terrific. But they were great movies that had very serious subjects, mocking the bourgeoisie and mocking everything from the government to the church to all of our cherished institutions. But they always but they're also very kind of violent and gory. And they turn on a dime from tragedy to comedy very quickly, and so I think that kind of got into me very early on. Let's be honest. Most of comedy is based in pain, right? Whether it's the physical pain of someone slipping on, the football going into your groin, right? Yeah. Or the social pain of humiliation. So much of comedy is painful that it becomes very easy, that it really is kind of the flip side of horror, and so it becomes very easy to sort of toggle between the two if you're willing to do it.
Yeah. No, I see what you mean. Boy, let's also talk your current project that's out, which is Ivar Time Walker.
Sure.
Because it is about, first off, who is Ivar, and what is the concept of it?
He's another old Valiant character. Armstrong is but one of a trio of immortal brother adventurers. The other one is Gilad, who is also known as the Eternal Warrior, who's one of Valiant's bigger characters both then and now. And the third brother is Ivar, who is a time traveler. He's sort of the Reed Richards of the trio. I like to say he's a combination between Reed Richards and John Constantine. He's smart enough to save the world, but he's just enough of a bastard to screw you over while doing it. And when we see Ivar, so Ivar's the smart one, Armstrong's the strong one, and Gilad's sort of the cunning Wolverine of the three. And that's why he's the most popular.
I was about to say, he is my favorite of the trio, but yeah.
Sure. And so Ivar is sort of this mysterious figure who, when his own series opens, is going to this physicist named Neela Seti at CERN in Switzerland, who's about to invent time travel and saying, hey, these guys are going to come kill you because you're about to do this. And he takes her on this insane adventure through time while being pursued by Prometheans who were suicide-like from the fifth dimension. And it's sort of a violent Douglas Adams. It's a violent, sexy Douglas Adams. Is why I keep channeling him. I feel like I'm channeling him when I'm doing this book.
And, it's funny. Somebody here said, Brian in the chat room just said, so, a takeoff of Golden Girls? No, let's maybe if B. Arthur carried an axe, right?
Oh, the Immortals?
Yeah.
Oh, no, they don't really age that much, Gilad, you'll see him later on in Ivar Time Walker. He does get a bit white in the hair, but no, they don't. They get around. It seems like the Golden Girls never really left their house.
Yeah.
Like they hung out in that living room a lot. On my vague recollections from the 80s. So no, these guys are much more world hoppers.
And for those, a hook without giving spoilers. I did not expect the last page. So
good.
The last page of Ivar Time Walker. That's one reason. That's one reason to watch it.
Excellent.
So, all right, or read it. So here's my next question, because he is a time traveler,
right? And
one of the most popular shows right now that's out there is Doctor Who.
Sure.
How do you avoid Ivar Time Walker, people just looking at it and go, oh, that's just a knockoff of Doctor Who?
Well, I think, number one, you embrace the fact that it pretty much is a knockoff of Doctor Who. Like, you don't really avoid it. I think it's pretty obvious that Barry Windsor-Smith, Ivar, first appeared in the pages of Archer and Armstrong and was very clearly a Doctor Who knockoff. In the early 90s, when I don't think the show was actually on the air at that point.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a terrible person to ask, unfortunately, because I'm a very shitty geek. I have only seen 2 episodes of Doctor Who all the way through. So I don't really know how similar it is to Doctor Who. I mean, obviously it's a time traveler and his companion, so you've got that going for it right there.
Right.
But I don't really... for one thing, Time Walker has an unlimited budget, and from what I've seen from Doctor Who, they don't.
Right.
That's the joy of comics.